There is an awakening happening, and you come apart for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show, Zeena Shrek. That's right, Zeena Shrek, who used to be known as Zeena Lavey, the daughter of the Church of Satan founder Anton Lavey, did an interview with Dr. Jordan Peterson, another one of these people that flipped from being a Democrat or a liberal to being a conservative. They've all conveniently found God or turning to God. And of course, this is all done by design to lure Christians into the alt-right media, the deception of their vote counting, the deception of the left-right. And Jordan Peterson is a part of the Daily Wire. Now, I need to play for you clips from this interview with Zeena Shrek, or Zeena Lavey. And you may remember some of the videos I've done on Zeena before, as well as the Church of Satan, which are available over on the website, uprisinglives.com. I've talked about the theory of Zeena Lavey. Many people have discussed and floated around the theory that Taylor Swift is a clone of Zeena Lavey. They look very similar. I have videos on it. I'm not saying 100% that she is a clone, but they clearly look like they're blood relatives. And if you understand these people, these bloodlines, these Satanists, they're all related to one another. So they're going to generally look like one another. But there's definitely a very, very uncanny resemblance between the two. Now, did Dr. Jordan Peterson bring that up? Of course he didn't bring that up, because he wouldn't bring up cloning. He wouldn't bring up weather modification. He's keeping you in the left-right, and that's what his job is. He's a doctor, of course. I love how these people refer to themselves as doctors. It's comical to me. Anyone who calls themselves a doctor or a journalist as if their opinion is higher or should be looked at as a higher opinion than ours. It's unbelievable what we live in today's world. But just a quick rundown on Peterson before I get to the juicy stuff. What was said about the Church of Satan, of course, the deception with animal sacrifice, the role that Zeena is playing here. And of course, this is what they do. This is what the Daily Wire interviewed her for, to make it sound like, well, the Church of Satan didn't really do anything with sacrifice, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice. It's just a concept. It's all make-believe. It was a scam that my father ran. And again, the Church of Satan was a front. It was a front. The dark satanic corners, or the dark satanic elements that are out there, all come from Aleister Crowley's teachings. Lavey took concepts from it, but they used it as a front, where they tried to make it look like, Satanists are just playing dress up, it's make-believe. But the truth of the matter is, Lavey knows exactly what she's doing. Zeena knows exactly what she's doing. But let me just show you this stuff with Jordan Peterson for anyone out there that's not aware. Because I don't think I've mentioned Dr. Peterson in videos before. I shouldn't really have to. But I don't know if you've seen the pictures of him where he's literally has his own clothing that he's wearing, that he designs, where he's showing himself as Two-Face. I mean, anybody who sees this outfit, what does it look like? It's the character that Two-Face. And that's exactly what most of these people in the right media have flip-flopped in their politics, conveniently at a time where all truth has been censored, except for these people, right? Except for the Rubin Report and Peterson and Shapiro. Of course, we've seen Shapiro with Peterson and Netanyahu. So what more really needs to be said about what they're doing, right? As far as hurting Christians, because of course they're lumping Israel in with Christianity. Netanyahu, who's responsible for creating Hamas, who's supposedly the enemy of Israel. I mean, how people aren't connecting the dots yet, with the intelligence agencies and the Mossad really control all these groups, the CIA, all one and the same, and they're the ones who are moving people around like chess pieces, and of course going after civilians. But they're all at a table together eating dinner. I've shown you this picture before, but I have to show you this clip before we get into Zeena, of Peterson talking about his contributions to helping write what we all know of as Agenda 2030, our coming slavery that they're trying to instill, or I should say that they're trying to rein in on all of the civilians of the earth. Well, Jordan Peterson just conveniently had his hand in writing Agenda 2030. You can't make it up.
We're building the good Skynet. It's like, really? Yeah. Building the good Skynet.
The good Skynet, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so the ESG openly is there to serve
BlackRock and Larry Fink.
BlackRock and the United Nations.
Yeah, Evil Central.
Because they're set up to establish the reign of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of what they call Agenda 2030.
I helped write those goddamn things, you know.
Oh no, because they're set up to establish the reign of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of what they call Agenda 2030.
I helped write those goddamn things, you know.
Oh no, what they call Agenda 2030.
I helped write those goddamn things, you know.
So I guess that's what you call a Freudian slip, right? When he talks about, well, he had his hand in writing Agenda 2030. So you're talking about this script, this blueprint for how to enslave humanity, and you had your hand in writing it. What, did you just suddenly grow a conscience, and then you all of a sudden are exposing things, and now you're conservative, right? Of course not. He's not really exposing much of anything. He's just keeping the audience in the left, right, tickling their ears by talking about how crazy some of these people are who want some of these policies put in place where kids could castrate themselves. That's really what the Daily Wire does. They tickle your ears by talking about things that shouldn't be discussed. We shouldn't be having debates about kids castrating themselves. But they continue to talk about that. That's how they lure in an audience. So then everyone goes there like, yeah, we need to fight back to this insanity. And then they keep them stuck and gatekeep all of their thoughts and keep them entrapped in the left-right paradigm. So Peterson has his hand in creating Agenda 2030. Of course, he's also buddy, just conveniently with Russell Brand. You seeing the pattern here of how these people are wolves in sheep's clothing, how these people come after Christians? Okay, for anyone out there that is hearing me for the first time, and you're going, well, why do we know that you're not? Because I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody on YouTube. And when I even reach a large audience, which the majority of my listeners know that I do a lot of times, I get taken down. I'm not meeting with Netanyahu, okay? I'm not meeting with Hollywood celebrities, okay? That's how you know the difference. That's how you know. These people are pushed down our throats, and they're meeting with other world leaders, and they're meeting with other big media companies. That's how you know who they are. Russell Brand is a Hollywood actor, married to a Rothschild, who at one point was married to Katy Perry, one of the most wicked witches in all the land, right? So, of course, he's friends with Russell Brand. The common theme with these wolves in sheep's clothing is that they're pretending to be Christian all of a sudden. These people who have liberal ideologies, Democrat ideologies, so to speak, like Russell Brand, suddenly have been baptized. And, of course, they get baptized out in the open in front of you because they know that you'll just see the picture of Russell Brand being baptized. And then you'll come after people like me and say, how dare you question if it's legit or not? Who are you to say? Well, I'll tell you who I am to say. I have discernment. And these people, if you know how secret societies work, if they were once in them, let's say hypothetically Russell Brand was in it and he turned his back on them. Well, Russell Brand wouldn't be alive to talk about it. It's called Mozarting. Okay, that's what happened to Mozart. They don't live when they if you turn your back on these secret societies and you reveal their secrets, you're in a blood oath. A blood oath means your life will be taken. Okay, they're all being positioned here. They're pretending to be your friend. And Peterson's another one. His wife just got baptized. They have to take pictures of his wife getting baptized and put it in the mainstream media. So they think, oh man, Jordan Peterson's a real Christian. He's got our back, just like Russell Brand. He's got his pictures of him getting baptized plastered all over the place too, right? So let's turn now to the interview. And of course, he would never get an interview with Zeena.
Hello, Moto. Hello, Moto.
Unless he was one of them, because Zeena wouldn't allow herself to be put in a position where she would be looked at or asked questions that would reveal Satanism. Things are on. They make a kind of a charade out of Satanism itself. And I go through it's a 2-hour interview, but I went through it to take parts of it out that I want you to hear because they're important. So she goes in to talk about animal sacrifice. And she talks about Satanists don't sacrifice animals. Satanists was like, well, at least we didn't, she says. Maybe other Satanist organizations sacrifice animals. And of course, we all know Satanists not only sacrifice animals, they sacrifice humans. Okay? I'm sure that we can find it. I'm going to show you some of the stuff on Zeena Lavey's Instagram account, so make sure you continue to watch after this clip. because some of the stuff that's out there after she has said that she has left the Church of Satan shows you that she's never really left the Church of Satan. She may have left that front of the Church of Satan, but she is still a deep occultist who is pretending, of course, to be, free from that, free from the reins of Christianity and Satanism, and those two things are big monsters fighting one another, making things up. This is the mindset they want you to think about, that it's all fake, but it's not. So here she is talking about how one of the reasons she turned away, and she wanted to make sure she did interviews to make sure people out there didn't think that she was sacrificing animals, because everybody incorporates Satanists as sacrificing animals. Now, why do you think that is? What do you think, we all just made it up? Because their books teach it? Because they've been caught doing it for centuries and centuries and centuries, and of course they don't want you to think they do it, so all it takes is for them to come out and say they don't really do that. But the reality of the matter is, you can even hear in her voice how these people are closer to animals than they are humans, which is what we're seeing in today's society. Not that there's anything wrong with people being close to animals. I love animals myself. But this mindset of like caring more about animals and people care about other humans is exactly what they're doing. And she even has the audacity to talk about animals.
Hello, Moto.
Sacrifice with Abrahamic religions. So she's pretty much saying that Christians are the ones who sacrifice, well, not Satanists, right? Listen to this.
I really didn't even want to do any more interviews. I had felt that I knew at that point that I was leaving the Church of Satan. That was like sometime in March or April, and I had already told my father that I was leaving. She was telling me about a new law that was going to be passed by Los Angeles Animal Control about prosecuting religions that practice animal sacrifice, such as Santeria and Satanism, and they were bunching it together. But I told her, yeah, but Satanism doesn't practice animal sacrifice. We don't, and that's a fact. We don't. I mean, at least Lavey and Satanism. If other Satanists do, that's not what I was representing. I was representing my father's organization. And so she convinced me that I really needed to do this, then, to be a voice against this law that was going to be passed about prosecuting people for animal sacrifice. And I said, yeah, but it's kind of a contentious thing for me, because personally, I do not agree with, the problem was, I do not believe animals should be sacrificed, and it's in fact other religions that do, even conventional religions that do sacrifice animals, or do kill animals in a ritualistic way. So, specifically, I'm talking about Abrahamic religions that they eat their meat in a certain way. They do prayers. They do certain ritual. This has to be a specific ritual to slaughter the animal.
So, of course, she's left the Church of Satan. She's talking about how they don't sacrifice animals. I'm sure she's an advocate. I'm sure we could dig up her being an advocate for a woman's right to choose, right? But that's not human sacrifice. At least that's what they want you to believe. And what's interesting is if you go through her recent Instagram posts, okay, you heard what she said. I'm not in it. I left it. And eventually you'll hear her say that she's a Buddhist now, which makes this whole thing even funnier. But first you see her holding up a book, The Bringer of Light, right? Oh, the Bringer of Light. Well, who is the Bringer of Light to these actual occultists? Well, we all know who the Bringer of Light is. Lucifer, right? And she just happens to have this book about Lucifer rising. In addition to that, you know what else is funny? There's a post right on her Instagram account. We're going to talk about secret societies, which again, they'll bring up the Church of Satan, because it's an easy way for them to go, well, they don't really do this, they don't really do that. They play dress up, they cosplay, it's all make-believe, right? They never get into the secret societies ever. Jordan Peterson or any of these guys. And if they do, they just brush it off like it's no big deal. Like people like me and you are conspiracy nuts, right? So while she tells you there that she's not into this stuff anymore, you can even see a post on her Instagram account where she's talking about and hashtagging Freemasonry and these secret societies, right? Knights Templar. Who do they worship? Oh, right. Knights Templar. What were they caught doing? Worshipping Baphomet, right? Freemasons. Worshipping Baphomet. So she's posting this stuff 40 weeks ago, which is less than a year ago. And this interview was just done. And we're supposed to believe that in the 90s she left the Church of Satan and doesn't believe in Lucifer anymore, right? Well, what does she believe in then? Because she's posting stuff like this, wishing you a blessed winter solstice. But wait, you're a Buddhist. What are you talking about, right? Oh, right. You're not supposed to think. You're supposed to just listen and let them program you into thinking that Satanism is just some type of role play thing that they do, right? She's a Buddhist now, right? And you're going to hear her talk about deities. This is important. Listen to this clip talking about deities and her baptism and how entities were summoned. She talks about this stuff, but then she tries to talk about how her father would make up demonic possession and all these things and talk about all these other false religions, which they are. Buddha, Kali, Shiva. She brings attention to the Egyptian gods, and she's like, oh, my father tried to say like they were demons and stuff like that, because they are. But in reality, these are all just really wonderful things that we're supposed to remember. They want us to worship these false gods, right? Like Buddha. They want us to think that, well, who are you to say anything about these other religions, quote unquote, right? These are deities and demonic entities that they're trying to get people to worship. So they tell you, oh, Kali, right? All right, Shiva the Destroyer hanging out at CERN, right? Listen to this. And this is how they brainwash people. And this is why Jordan Peterson has this guest star, right? Because people are like, oh, wow, we're talking about Satanism. And it all gets dismissed. And they're like, in the comment section, like, that's great. Hopefully soon Zeena finds Jesus. Zena's, with Buddha, that's not right, but that's okay. It's better than worshiping Satan. It's all one and the same. This universal religion that they're really talking about is what she's leading you towards. And Jordan Peterson interviewing her and letting her pretty much make it seem like Satanism is fictional, satanic panic stuff, is exactly why he's interviewing her. To make people think that it's all just, again, cosplay. Listen to her talk about these demons, deities, and her baptism where entities were summoned.
I honestly felt when I left the Church of Satan, anger, hurt. I went through all the myriad emotions, and it took me a very long time to sort out all of my emotions, but my immediate instinct was, I'm going to be a damn worse Satanist than you can even imagine, to my father, and I thought, not only am I going to sever ties with you, and I'm going to look into the origins of all the lies that you've said, and I'm going to look into the origins of even terminology and jargon that you use. And for example, in the Satanic Bible, he's got a list of gods and demons and things that he considers satanic, but that's ridiculous, because so many of those have nothing to do with Satanism, and it's just his misinterpretation, I would say, of really what he was doing is he was taking a Christian idea of deities such as Kali, the Hindu Kali, or the Egyptian deity of Set. He was taking a Christianized interpretation of these deities and just, again, inverting it and saying, I'll satanize it, I'll make it all about Satan then. So then I went on my own journey to look into the origins of these things and what is the reality of a lot of the things that I was not only raised to believe, but even my own baptism, certain entities that were invoked during my baptism.
So now she's conveniently, of course, gone away from the deities, wink, wink, and now she's a Buddhist, right? Now she's a Buddhist, even though I love how she's in the same breath talking about entities with her baptism, and then making it seem like, oh, my father was trying to say in his teachings that Kali and all these things were demons. Because they don't want you to realize that in today's world, because Anton isn't here anymore. He's long gone. They want people to worship the false religions that they've set up. It's all part of the New World Order design. So now, Zeena is a Buddhist, right? And I have to show you this because, of course, she comes across, she seems a little bit nervous if you ask me in the interview. But she comes across like, oh, I care about people now. I'm no longer a witch or anything, even though every day I'm posting stuff about witches and goats, which I'll show you more in a few minutes. But she also has a post here now. She's a Buddhist.
Hello, Moto.
Talking about wishing His Holiness, calling the Dalai Lama Holiness, wishing him a happy birthday, right? Does she want to mention this, by the way? I've covered this. The best Dalai Lama speaking out after a video showed him asking to kiss a boy's tongue. And he was putting his tongue down a boy's throat. But she wouldn't have to explain any of this stuff because you don't have to talk about the Dalai Lama. You can't talk about the Dalai Lama or what Buddhists really believe in, because it's hate speech. And of course, that all ties into exactly what the Satanists do anyway when it comes to boys' tongues. This is not. So after that, she goes on to talk about rituals and a ritual she performed. So I love how she's talking on one hand about all the stuff her father believed and how, he would kind of do carny in a sense, right? Like he would play into suckers, and he would get suckers to join as if Satan was actually real. That's really the mindset that the Satanists have. This is part of the vow that they take. They all go out there and pretend that it's all kind of a role play, that it's not really Lucifer, right? Just like the Satanic Temple does. And she goes on to talk about literal spells.
Hello, Moto.
That she cast on her father, on her last name. So she left the church doing witchcraft and sorcery. So where did she learn that? She picked that up in the club somewhere? Nothing to do with her father, right? And the real teachings that these people actually follow, which is witchcraft. Because you can clearly see that you can look at her now and you know she's still a witch. I mean, that's very clear. I'm not saying because she's wearing a black outfit. You could just sense it. I feel like the Holy Spirit shows us these things. You could sense when these people talk, right? So listen to her talk about putting on spells and rituals like it's nothing, right? And we're supposed to hear this and be like, it's just some type of superstition. She doesn't really mean a spell, right? She's just kind of like talking about Dungeons and Dragons, right? So she goes from a Satanist telling us that Satanism is just kind of like a metaphor. It's not really real. The deities, all that stuff's not real. And then she talks about a ritual. Literally, when you listen to this clip, she's talking about, as she says, magic, using magic.
But ultimately, after I completed a certain ritual that spanned over 3 consecutive days, and then the 4th day I sealed it. And after I sealed that ritual, and then I didn't look at it again, then I actually physically sealed it in a container, and I didn't look at it again, except for only one precise day that I had chosen to kind of reinforce it each year on one particular precise day. So then after that ritual, as I said, then I sealed it away, didn't think about it. I only allowed myself one day a year in which I would reopen it and kind of reinforce it. Because I thought, okay, he always said, if someone smite you on one cheek, smash them on the other. If your father admits to you over the phone that he actually sent someone after you, well, I didn't send a hitman to him. I didn't send a physical hitman after him. But I did take matters into my own hands magically.
How did you reconcile that with, you've gone on a journey down the Buddhist path.
So there you have a Satanist coming out talking about magic and rituals and spells, but on the other hand, pretty much telling us the entire time that, they don't sacrifice animals, Satanists aren't really what you think they are, it's kind of all make-believe. She had to find herself in something else, and of course, conveniently, she found herself as a Buddhist now, right? Like I showed you earlier, the clips of her showing you her Buddha, she has her little altar with Buddha, but at the same time, as all of them do, they reveal themselves through signs and symbols and things they post, right? At the same time as telling her when she's a Buddhist, she doesn't believe in Lucifer, it's not real, right? Here's a picture she posted of a goat, right? There's a goat, and what's behind it? Is it a goat a fan of Mercedes-Benz? Oh, right, the Mercedes-Benz logo just happens to be the same symbol as the peace sign. And in satanic baptism, of course, the peace sign represents denouncing Christ, breaking his arms off the cross upside down. In a satanic baptism, they are denouncing Christ. So you have a goat there with the peace sign, but I'm sure that that's a coincidence. She's just saying in the clip what she posted, art. It's art, right? It's all just art, ladies and gentlemen. She just saw a goat. It was standing outside Mercedes-Benz headquarters. She took a picture of it, and she put it on her Instagram account. It has nothing to do with her really being a Luciferian, right? Or, even posting this guy wearing a shirt that says Lucifer 666 on it a couple of years ago, because remember, she left the Church of Satan in the 90s. So we're supposed to believe she's a different person, and they don't really believe that anyway. She's a Buddhist, she's great. She's still posting about Lucifer, 666, right? They want you to believe, or they really think that we're all born yesterday, and unfortunately most Christians are, because all it takes is for them to say that they're not a Satanist, or They are a Christian, and everybody out there believes it. They don't need to dig any further. They don't need to know a tree by its fruits. They just take them at their word, right? Jordan Peterson's entire life has been about pretty much mocking Christianity, in my opinion, from all the stuff I've seen on Dr. Peterson over the years. Now, suddenly, at a time where they push the alt-right media down our throats, and these are all the faces of freedom, him and Brand, they've all conveniently found God. How Christians don't see how they look at you as a sucker, how they look at you as you're so dumb that they can just come out and say they're a Christian and they can be promoted in the mainstream. Everybody can know their name. They could be making millions of dollars. They could be out there all yoking up with each other and hanging out with celebrities still. And you would just go, yeah, well, who are you to say, right? They know you're programmed to automatically just go, who are you to judge? Who are you to judge? I'm not judging. I'm telling you the obvious. These people are wolves in sheep's clothing. They are snakes who reveal themselves every single day to us. Same with Trump. Right? Telling us he's the snake, and everyone out there wants to say that has nothing to do with him being a snake. His assassination couldn't be faker. Couldn't be faker. The same people who tell us that all these events at schools are false flag events, and we all break them down, we see them, they go, oh, yeah. Oh, but because it's Donald Trump, it can't be fake. They don't see that they're under hypnosis, right? Just like the same people who see this, they're like, oh, Zeena's changed her life, right? But then you go through her Instagram, she's got, her, the stuff that's on there, right? She's talking about the equinoxes. She's talking about all these things that witches and Satanists worship, the days that they worship. She's talking about Halloween, right? Samhain. She's talking about the equinox, Saturnalia, right? But that sounds like somebody who doesn't worship Satan. It sounds like somebody who's just cosplaying. That's because they can get away with saying that stuff because they know the majority of Christians, their churches don't teach any of this stuff about the enemy. So they're just excited that somebody who's famous or they're just thrilled. They want to roll out the red carpet and say, come on in, and then put them on a platform or a pedestal to speak on their behalf or on God's behalf, like Russell Brand does now. It's pathetic. So there's Jordan Peterson and Zeena. Real hard-hitting questions with any of these people anyway. They do these interviews, they pretend like they're, because everybody out there just hears what they want to hear. They throw stuff in like, oh, this trans stuff is crazy. Yeah, no crap it is, okay? You don't need to run to these people because they tickle your ears about how insane Democrats are and how they're communists, okay? Everybody out there already can see that. But they're doing that, bringing you in, and then, why don't you ask her questions about, well, how does she know these rituals she's speaking of? If Satanism isn't really Satanism, she was a high priestess in there, and it was more marketing, and it was more her father's beliefs about suckers and preying off of people. Ask her what the ritual was that she did that she sealed away and opens up. How about the goat? How about just some of the stuff on her Instagram? It's just simple questions. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. Even bring up the thing. I would bring up the thing with Taylor Swift. I know it sounds like a crazy notion, but how about you bring it up as an opportunity to make people aware of cloning? How it is real. Right? Or even the bloodlines of how these people are all related to each other, right? How they interbreed, right? That's how they keep their bloodline. Oh, come on now. Now we're all thinking too rationally that Jordan Peterson or the Daily Wire would actually ask those types of questions because they need to keep Christians herded up and yoked up with the military state known as Israel, which is not Israel in the Bible, but nobody out there who's Christian seems to be able to figure that out, other than the small amount of us who are awake. As you can still see from the comments that I get, they can't get past just the word Israel without, to them, it's like, if you say, what? Did you say something about Israel? How? They just don't seem to be able to understand the Balfour Declaration, World War II, the Rothschilds and the Federal Reserve, and their role in Israel, and how they took over that land, and who the real Israelites are. They just can't. So all they need to hear is the word, and then they have no problem being yoked up with the synagogue of Satan, right? And then these guys are rubbing shoulders with Netanyahu, all these Daily Wire people who are now all Christians in a sense. Ben Shapiro's not. Jordan Peterson won't admit to it, but they're playing to the Christian audience, and they're falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. So, Zeena, thanks for coming out of the woodwork to do an interview. Of course, you only do interviews with the media they tell you to do interviews with, like the alt-right media, but the simple fact remains, okay, and this isn't an attack on someone like Zeena Lavey, because look, if you were born into a coven or a family, right, like I've always talked about, and I look at people like that and I feel horrible for them. Oh, your father, your mother is so-and-so, right? And they push you into it, like Britney Spears, for example. All these kids go through Disney, they're pushed into it. I feel sympathy for them. You can look at Zeena Lavey and you can say, Okay, well, her father was this. She got pushed in. Okay. Well, she knew of Jesus Christ, and she could accept Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior. But she has chosen not to. She has chosen not to accept Jesus Christ. In fact, she's chosen to pretend that Lucifer and Satanism and the Church of Satan itself is just kind of a make-believe type of pseudo thing. And now she's a Buddhist, right? So what I'm calling her out for is the fact that she's clearly still a witch. And Jordan Peterson won't bring that up and say, well, you're doing a lot of witch stuff. You're talking about the solstices and everything else. You pretend like, well, you dabbled in paganism, this and that. Now you've ended up being a Buddhist, right? Oh, right. How convenient. Sounds like the universal religion they're going to push on everybody, right? Buddhists say, just be nice, accept everything, love everything. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Can't talk bad about Buddha, folks. That's hate speech. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.